All right, gentlemen, are we ready?
We are ready.
Hello,
Well, I couldn't hear you
Internet, and
over
welcome to an episode of Geek Fanthology. I am your host, Neil Cordray, and I am joined this week by...
the one true Ben.
And...
Mike?
And, very special guest star, Ethan Cordray, will probably be joining us a little bit later at some point of technicaldifficultiespod.com. I'm sure he'll introduce himself again when he gets here. We are recording remotely thanks to the fact that, there's still a whole pandemic on everybody. And heck, even when the stay-at-home orders get lifted, probably still stay home for a few weeks if you can, just because probably going to be lifted a little too early. Might want to watch the caseload and things along those lines. Stay smart, please.
Hell yeah.
Obviously, like if your place of work opens up and and they say come in, I mean you kind of have to, but you might still want to try to maintain slightly reclusiveness for a little bit. Of course, this is
Wear a
coming
mask,
out
wash
in
your hands.
yeah. Continue to wash your hands. Continue to wear a mask because that's actually for other people because you can potentially be an asymptomatic carrier.
If there's
And
somebody
if both an
that's
asymptomatic, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say if somebody is excitedly counting down the days until they can stop washing their hands, I don't know what the hell's the matter with them.
Nerds everywhere going, yes, I can go back to being my old uncouth self. I don't think so, but still, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, oddly enough, seeing some information where if an asymptomatic carrier and someone with, who is vulnerable are both wearing masks, the odds of getting, of it transmitting go from like 70% to under 5 or 10%.
Yeah,
So,
I saw the same thing. I think it was just a Facebook meme, but like there's still like if you're wearing a mask, it protects you a little bit. If the person who's sick is wearing a mask, it protects you a lot more. If you're both wearing a mask, it protects you the most.
right. And even if it's not, a full, hazmat level N95 or KN95 or whatever,
Yeah.
so long as as precautions are taken on both sides.
I believe
Um,
N95 N as in Nancy is the official best version of the
right.
high grade professional masks.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
And
sorry, go ahead, Ben.
and those are ordinarily, I think, only designed to be used once. But
Yeah,
people
they're
having them
they're
using them.
designed for like single use, or at least like they're not reused. They're not the sort of thing you're supposed to reuse. Apparently, the guy who invented them came out of retirement to try and find a way to sanitize them and for reuse. Like he was done. He was done inventing stuff, and he was like, I'm gonna try and work on this because I got nothing better to do, and there's a pandemic on.
That sounds like the premise for a movie where it's like, damn it, Johnson, you're the best mask maker this side of the of the river or whatever. It's just like just one more for old time's sake, pulling me back in.
It's really there are a lot of stories of retired of people who are retired coming out of retirement to do thing during pandemic with their
Save the world.
with their general thought being, well, I was good at this once, and
That was a long time ago.
well, no, it's I was good at this once. It's not exactly hard to pick back up. And if I get sick and die, I'm old. Like a lot of people, a lot of like retired doctors have been like, you know, yes, I'm at higher risk for death, but I'm at decently high risk for death whether I'm working in the medical field or not, and I might as well help people.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a there's a I forgot the name, but I read a story like that a week or so ago about someone who was actually a was an astronaut at one point who then became a doctor afterwards, and was just like, doing all this like volunteering and stuff, like just doing all this stuff to help out. And
Right.
that's kind of what he said to his to his grown daughter. Basically, it's like, well, I'll be as careful as I can, but like, if I die, I die. This is like the most meaningful thing I can possibly do, so I don't want to just sit around on my hands when people need me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's it's a
Yeah,
little
and
morbid, but at the same time, it's it's inspiring that people are throwing well, not exactly caution to the wind because they're being careful, but taking calculated risks to help other people.
Yeah.
right. And that's better, it's one of those things that's better to have when you become Facebook famous on there as, hey, I can help, I'm going to go do these things, and then, then you read the obituary as opposed to, this is all a hoax, I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go, go do things that way I normally do. Oh, I've got a fever, and then, there's an obituary. You're going to go out, might as well go out looking, like you made a difference, as opposed to looking like an idiot.
Gonna go out looking like a boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, if anyone hears me coughing or bleh, it's still allergies, everyone. Apparently, I have a mild case of bronchitis because I went to the doctor because I'm trying to be a responsible human being, and they're like, "No, I mean, officially, we can't rule out COVID-19 without a test,
Mm-hmm.
but like,
You're not presenting enough of the symptoms.
I'm not presenting anywhere near enough of the symptoms to get a test, or for that
Mm-hmm.
matter, to even make the doctor think that I might have COVID-19. I appear
Right.
to have some mild upper respiratory bug, but I'm wearing a
Well,
mask in public because who knows, I might be an an either asymptomatic carrier or very light symptomatic carrier, and I'm doing
right.
It
fine.
is allergy season.
Yeah, it's also
Yeah.
allergy season, and I always develop a cough in
Right.
spring. So.
Well, and I think that's the thing is being responsible. It's like I might have it, I might not. I'm not gonna take those chances. You
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I haven't been able to put in my 14 days leave from work, but I'm also being, as conscientious as I can.
Oh yeah,
We were going to talk about
absolutely.
something else today, weren't we? Oh yeah, so um, now that we've talked about the human malware a little bit, why don't we go to the subject at hand? Normally, this would be where we would have a segment wherein we would do a signal boost of things that we've been interested in and looking at and such. But that's pretty much going to be this entire episode. Um,
Because yeah, pretty much nothing else
hey, we
is
have an
going
intruder.
on.
Good timing.
Hi, Ethan.
Hi.
So we already told people that you were coming, but you can introduce yourself here.
Hey, I've come.
Here comes a new
It's
challenger.
Ethan Cordray of the Technical Difficulties Gaming Podcast, technicaldifficultiespod.com.
I actually said all of that earlier for you, but you got it. You got plugged.
Well,
twice
I just had to
today.
make sure.
Yeah. Here comes a new challenger. So, we figured since last time, our subject matter was kind of heady and
Deep.
and a little morose. Maybe we talk about things we've been enjoying for recently.
That sounds good.
So this is Signal Boost the episode, talking about stuff we've been watching, playing, working on, etc. Talking about interesting things that have built. Like this is random content. The episode, but in a
Now
point.
playing the episode.
Nice.
Mhm.
I'm down for it.
Spoiler of the week, which is semi-cogent to something that I'm sure we're going to talk about. Aerith may or may not be dead.
Ben coined
She
the
is
term.
Schrodinger's NPC.
Mhm.
There it is.
Mysterious.
Yes.
Schrodinger's Aerith.
We'll get to that in a second. I thought that I might start today's episode with the saga of Neil trying to get a new computer.
Yeah.
Because this has
Is that
been a
anything
roller
like The Saga
coaster.
Begins by Weird Al Yankovic?
It's
Long,
about as
long
long.
time ago.
So as I mentioned, like 2 or 3 episodes back now, I'm in the process of trying to reclaim my my PC Master Race membership card by getting a new computer, a new gaming rig. And it's been just a universal nightmare. About a month ago, I finally assembled the parts. Uh, plugged everything in, put everything together, and tried to turn it on, and the machine would not post to BIOS, which, for those of you who are not tech savvy, that means it wouldn't turn on.
Have you tried turning it? Oh, wait.
Yeah,
Um,
like at all, as in like hardware problem.
The fans would turn on, and the RGB on the RAM would light up, and there was an LED on the board, and that would all light up, but it wouldn't beep, and nothing would come onto the screen. So I said, well, crap, it sounds like I probably have a bad motherboard or a bad processor, and I don't really have the necessary
Tools.
I don't have the necessary stuff to really test to see what's not working right. So I'm going to have to send them both back and get them both replaced, which I did. Then, fast forward about 3 weeks, new motherboard and new processor arrive, and I'm building things, and I'm reassembling things, and I install the CPU's heatsink, sort of upside down. Like there's like it can only go in one of 2 orientations, and theoretically either orientation is entirely valid. However, with one orientation, a little tab on the fan sticks out over one of the DIMM slots for my RAM, and so it's not one of the ones I was going to be using. But if I ever want to upgrade my RAM to use all 4 slots, I'd have to take the heatsink off at that time to be able to install new RAM.
Yeah, so you want to do it right the first time.
Yeah. So I get really mad at myself. I take the thing off, the heatsink off, and I don't have any additional thermal paste. And so I say, you know what? Screw this noise. I don't want to have to deal with it anymore. I'm still working. I'm an essential employee at business that I try not to mention during the podcast due to agreements with the business. Um, and um, and as such, I'm just going to take all these components to a computer shop and say, "Build me my machine, please. Thank you. I will
Thank
pay
you.
you money so that I don't have to think about it anymore."
I'll pay you money to do things better than I can.
Yes. And they were like, "We are happy to take your money and do things better than you than you can." And they put everything together on their test bench, and they say, "Well, Neil, your your CPU and your motherboard are both dead."
Weren't these the things that you replaced?
These are the things I just replaced. Yes. So I'm like, "Really? Well, that just royally sucks." Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and return these new ones to Amazon. How much will it cost me to have you replace them versus me ordering them from Amazon? They were like, "It's going to cost you $50 more than Amazon. It'll cost you to buy them off Amazon." I said, "Okay, you buy them this time, so that way, if things don't work, you can get it replaced, and I don't have to think about it." And they said, "Okay." Processor arrived this last Friday. Motherboard arrived yesterday. They put everything together today. And I got a call from them saying, "So, Neil, your power supply is not working correctly." It is not supplying enough power. Which leads me to believe perhaps that may have been the problem with the first motherboard and processor combo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
they could have
surprised.
they probably were working just fine, but I wasn't getting enough power to the
Yeah.
board to make everything post.
Right.
So now I'm doing an RMA process with EVGA, the makers of my power supply, to get things up and running because Computer Store doesn't have, like, while they do have power supplies that they could sell me, they don't have any that are 80 plus gold rated, which is an efficiency standard that I really want. And it'll be faster for me to RMA things with the manufacturer, which is what I'm doing. So at this point, I've got an RMA started. I should be getting another new power supply in the mail, probably in the next 4 to 5 days. And hopefully I will actually have a new computer by next week.
Fingers crossed, as they say.
Fingers crossed.
Upside,
So,
my new 4K monitor arrived in the mail today. I should really probably plug it in and make sure it works.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, given what you've gone through so far.
Yeah. So what do you think you would want to put on, use first as a test run for your new shiny system when it, functions?
Well,
The payoff, as it were.
there are a few games that I've wanted to play for a while. I can't remember if I refunded both of them or not on. No, I still. So the game that I will most likely install and play first is actually an older game. And by older game I mean 3 years old, but it was the first game I bought where my computer wasn't actually able to run it, and I was surprised and irritated by this fact.
Right.
It was the first game where my computer started to show its age.
Was that the Doom? Was that Doom?
No, it was not Doom Eternal. I definitely want to pick up Doom Eternal because I was running Doom 2016 without a hitch. Actually, like, my computer runs Doom like a champ. However, what it can't run is Prey, which I would really like to play.
Is that that's the remake of the 2005 game?
No, Prey. This was Prey, which was the spiritual successor to System Shock 2.
Oh, okay. It's just another game called Prey. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was another one.
And it's technically just at the edge of my computer's performance capability. Like, I can even actually technically boot it up and run it on my current rig, but it runs into a lot of problems because I'm actually just below the minimum system requirement.
Well, that's another thing about getting a new computer, a new gaming rig, is that it's very therapeutic to take a game that you could kind of like run on middling settings, and then just max everything out and make,
yeah.
screw you, man. It's
Crank
like,
it to
it's like
11.
leveling up, and going back to like a boss that was beating the crap out of it, and it's not even a challenge at all.
Yeah,
The
it's
other
nice.
game that I plan on picking up and playing is Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus.
Cool.
Which I also significantly wanted to play, but found out I couldn't. I made, like, my current rig was able to play the first level, but it fell apart when it tried to run the cutscene after the first level.
Oh.
The first level was a lot of damn fun too.
You know what that reminds me of? This is pretty, dated by today's standards, but you guys remember the days of demo discs for like PlayStation 2 games?
It's very
and
much
shit?
felt like I got to play the
Yeah,
demo of the
exactly.
game.
You're like, oh, it's like getting a demo disc and having a game you're super jazzed for, but it's not out yet, or you don't have the money, or whatever the case is, right? And you just keep playing that same fucking level over and over again.
Yep.
I got to play the level where I was BJ Blazkowicz rolling myself around in a wheelchair in a submarine and shooting Nazis. Because this is Wolfenstein, and well, you shoot a lot of Nazis.
That's what you do. That's funny. It's still same protagonist, because when you said the new Colossus, that subtitle, I was like picturing BJ like climbing those things from Shadow of the Colossus, you know, like the ultimate crossover. Well, hell, one of them could be Mecha
Oh.
Hitler. Look at that synergy.
Nice.
I would play that game. I mean, technically, you kill Mecha Hitler in Wolfenstein 3D. So
Yeah, it's like halfway through the game. It's not even, oddly enough, he's not the end boss. That's
I need to
kind of
get some
counterintuitive.
water real quick. So I will shut up and let someone else talk for a little bit.
All
Someone
right.
start talking.
So, Mike, what are you obsessing over?
Well, I plowed through Ozark super quick. It's a great show on Netflix. It's something I'd heard people, buzzing about, but I never, for whatever reason, I didn't get around to it. I mean, one thing is just there's so many hours in the day. Like,
Right.
Right.
there's such a long list of shows. I mean, it's a good problem to have, like having a list of quality shows on your streaming services of choice that you don't, that are all good and you just don't have the time for. But
Right.
yeah, it's well, I mean, of course, it's a little surreal because it takes place in the Ozarks where I actually live. But yeah, it's starring and executive produced by Jason Bateman, and he's a good actor in general. He's often in a lot of like funny stuff, so it's kind of interesting to see him play like a more dramatic, a more dramatic role.
Mm-hmm.
And also tend to see him in movies as opposed to series, so that's kind of different too. Um, there's 3 seasons. I'm not sure exactly when the third season came out, but it was like a relatively new addition. I think like within a week or so of when that dropped is when I started getting into the show, and that's kind of what brought it back on my radar. Is Netflix always likes to put a bug in your ear when it's like, hey, this is a thing that you looked at or that is trending or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's I can't get too into details without discussing plot stuff. There's a lot of twists and turns, so I won't do that. But I can just say, in general terms, this is kind of like a patented Geek Fanthology first half of a movie review.
Mm-hmm.
Where I can talk
Right.
about it in general terms, what appeals to me, what's interesting and stuff. And I mean, obviously, I mentioned, Jason Bateman. He's cool. There's a lot of other great. Laura Linney plays his wife. There's a lot of great acting in it and stuff. But the writing is really smart. It's downright Shakespearean in how a lot of stuff happens. And some people were giving parallels to Macbeth.
Not unlike Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. Like, it's whether intentional or not. Both due to the classic ubiquitous nature of Shakespeare and just his pure prolificness, like it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
But
Right.
the style of it is really interesting. Like it has this feel where like everything is kind of surreal, like with like the filter, like the filter and the way things are like filmed and stuff. Like people are I don't know. It's hard to put into words. Like it's kind of like this kind of like there's this kind of like ominous nature to things, like with the lighting and the just the feel with a lot of scenes and how things are shot. And it's interesting. Kind of like just the style in which it is, in which it's filmed, kind of like really sells the world that you're in. Kind of like how how if things to go on the other spectrum, like if things are cartoony and over the top, like say in a Borderlands game or something, like that kind of informs the universe, right?
Right.
And it's like this is kind of the other end of that, where it's like things being kind of grounded and bleak and everything kind of really like sell the whole like um, premise of the show. But basically, the core premise is that Jason Bateman's character was laundering money for a drug cartel, and they get into the specifics of that in a flashback in one of the episodes in season 1. But the premise is that his back is against the wall, and he just kind of like on the fly comes up with this plan to launder money in like the Lake of the Ozarks region. And it was just one of those kind of like made it up as he went along things. And so there's this sense of urgency because it's like if basically he's given a test run to launder all this money, and if he doesn't, then he and his family will be killed. And so that's the premise.
See,
It's
I
pretty-
recommend in general not working for people where the price for failure is death.
Right? Where that's
Yeah, that's a good
your
policy.
go-to.
Yeah.
If you can
But-
avoid that, it's hashtag career goals right there.
Well, it's interesting because in one of the episodes, it does a flashback, like several years, and it kind of shows how that whole thing happened. You know, it wasn't just like, person shows up and he's like, sure, sign me up. You know, there's this whole kind of like back and forth as to how that was arrived at, and that's another interesting aspect of the show is like, is the whole like family dynamic, because it's him and his wife and their 2 kids. And relatively early on, like the kids find out what's going on. So there's the whole weird like family dealing with crime angle, you know. Anyway, it's a really great show, and I definitely recommend it.
Cool.
So, sorry to briefly say something here. Hearing a lot of thunder outside my window, so it's entirely possible my power might go out at some point.
Yeah, I'm hearing some thunder as well.
If that happens, I'll make sure to like put something to say something on my phone in Discord or something. But in case something happens and like I cut out mid-set, then
Yeah, I see what you're doing. It's like that Wayne's World 2 thing where they like they do the ridiculous order where they're like cutting out their voice on purpose to try to screw with him. Then they inexplicably get the order perfect, and he's just stunned by it.
Well, I'll tell you something. Having worked fast food, you get to the point where you speak pretty fluent static.
Yeah.
I was gonna say fragments, but yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
Stands to reason.
In regards to other TV, I can highly recommend a show that I think I might have mentioned at one point previously on the show, but it's on YouTube. It's a BBC show called Taskmaster.
Taskmaster.
Yes. Here is the basic premise of the show. 5 famous in England comedians are gotten together to do various wacky and random things. They are then scored and awarded kind of arbitrary points based off of how well they do whatever thing it was
that they were supposed to do.
that they were instructed to do. The thing that brought this to my thought was one of the tasks that they were assigned was to contact a pizza place and order an extra large vegetarian pizza with pepperoni and bacon, no cheese, no tomatoes, with the proviso that they were not allowed to say any of the words that I just used. They couldn't say
Wow.
pizza, extra large, vegetarian, cheese, pepperoni, bacon, or tomato. That's to give you a taste of the sort of thing that they are told to do. Another thing, and some of it's also visual, like do something that will look impressive when played backwards because that's how we're going to watch it.
So it's like a British version of Jackass with a little more class.
Well, it's not because they're not being dumbasses to each other. They are specifically each person. All 5 comedians all do the same thing, but like are like they are each assigned the same task.
Yeah.
They are performed and filmed individually. They don't know what the other people did, which is why it's theoretically a competition.
Yeah.
They're competing. The first task of each event is you have been told to bring in your most X item, and it all goes into a prize pool, and then and whoever wins the day theoretically takes home all the prizes. Although I assume probably backstage they're just redistributed.
That's pretty funny.
Like they were told, bring in your most satisfying item, and somebody made a crock pot full of fish chowder, and somebody brought it like it's a really interesting show. The first 3 seasons, first 4 seasons are up on YouTube on youtube.com/taskmaster. Like this is their official like this is not
Yeah.
this is not someone has pirated the crap and put it up. In fact, right now they're also doing quote home tasking where they are telling people do a thing. Send us a video no more than 1 minute and 30 seconds long on Twitter, and the top 10 we will put on our YouTube channel for you.
Oh, that's funny.
In an attempt to support people during the pandemic. Their most recent home task was put something surprising under a sheet and reveal it.
Nice.
And it's just been a lot of fun, and because the other thing is it's being done by 5 stand-up comedians, and there's a lot of banter and kibitzing over the videos while they're doing the thing. And
Mhm.
that's actually that I have rather uniquely British sensibilities when it comes to humor, but as a result, I have been quite enjoying like the observational comedy associated with it as well.
Yep.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very different, but that reminds me a little bit of Impractical Jokers, because you have the group of buddies that are comedians or improv people or whatever, and then they're given silly tasks.
Hmm.
The main difference there is that that's more about making an ass of yourself in public and messing with people, where the people aren't in on the joke.
Right.
But by the way, I cannot recommend that enough. That's something I watched a while back, but that was just kind of on my radar, just kind of vaguely, and I never really intended to get into it. I just on a lark just watched an episode, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't stop watching Impractical Jokers. This is one of my personal favorites is in the one of the very first bits in the first episode where they're working the counter at a what is it, a White Castle, White Castle restaurant, and they have to say and do the most ridiculous things, and one of them was he would repeat back the guy's or gal, whoever, the customer's order in this like royal decree voice, like, oh yes, the Lord will have the number 2 with, and do like elaborate arm gestures and stuff. It's pretty great.
Apparently, there's been a U.S. A version of Taskmaster as well, which doesn't entirely surprise me. But
And of course,
Yeah.
nerds will argue online about, oh, the UK version was better, the US version was better.
I wouldn't know. All I can really say is that I've only watched the UK version, and apparently the US version got one 8-episode series and season, and then was canceled unceremoniously. So, like 2 years ago.
No, I didn't know it aired on Fox.
It wasn't on Fox. It was on Comedy Central, so.
No, it's funny
Yeah.
because usually the British stuff is the stuff that's known for having short series.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Technically speaking, the first series is only 4 episodes long. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 6 episodes long. Series 2 was 5 episodes long. Series 3 was 5. Series 4 was a long one at 8 episodes.
Yeah, so the trend continues. Then there you go. Very
Yeah.
well.
Right. Which is
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Also, you have to keep. Sorry, go ahead.
It was kind of funny because British shows don't do seasons; they do series.
Yes, I was about to say. You also have to keep in mind that when I say Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, I'm actually talking about it's really seasons, except they call them series in the UK. Like technically, like Mike's brain will turn off here for a second, but Doctor Who is in like Series 15. I think right now, or something along those lines.
Well, Doctor Who really doesn't count the same way because Doctor Who goes by both Doctors and series.
Yes, but I'm saying that technically speaking, what is airing right now, what has been airing was episodes of Series 12.
Right.
Yeah, because it's about the
To
production
use-
schedule.
When using the when using the proper British terminology for how they term their seasons.
Unsurprisingly, that is the British version is a bit more of a precise and formal way to refer to something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
So Ben, what have you been doing?
I have been playing The Sims 4 for one
Yeah, we
part
haven't
of
even gotten
my
to
time.
games yet.
Yeah. No, as far as entertainment on shows and such, let's see.
Kind of out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Ben, are you talking at all? I suppose we wouldn't know if you were.
He is not transmitting right now. May have to turn it off and turn it back on again. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's hearing us.
I'll send him a Facebook message.
And it can be, it can, if you're hearing this, man, it can be anything. Don't necessarily have to go with,
Yeah.
a show or whatever, game, book, whatever. That's one thing I'm doing is reading some more of my big ass D&D art, like art and history book. I guess you could say the Art and Arcana big ass coffee table book.
Oh yeah, is that like the one that's kind of like the history of D&D type thing?
Yeah, it goes from the very beginning, like the very first box and the early advertisements and stuff, and goes all the way up to 5th edition. And yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. And
Cool.
the art, it's interesting to see how how far it progressed from like barely more than scribbles to the more modern stuff you see today.
Right.
Okay, there we go.
Hey, we
Yes,
can hear you
you're back.
again.
Back.
Yeah,
All right, I'm back.
we did lose you for a second, but
All right, what was the last thing you heard?
you were saying, well, for entertainment, I
Yeah, mostly I've been doing games and writing.
fair enough.
That's been the bulk of it. So yeah, I've been playing The Sims 4, and as per my normal habit, I went and got the Magic version, and so that's been a good way to put in a lot of my time. Then what else have I done? Been working on a variety of things. Book 7 in the Demon's Apprentice series, trying to get that done. Been working on trying to get a couple of superhero series done, as part of that as well. Trying to get. I've got one set in New Essex, my longest and dearest running game that Ronan and I have been working on, and called Checkmate. Then I've been working on a new location, New Fall, which has also been something of a, it's a new project.
Cool.
So yeah, most of what I've been doing is, is not watching TV. But it's kind of funny because my girl,
Being a productive writer, how dare you?
I know,
This is not the time.
What a jerk! I know.
Actually, this is exactly the time.
But yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, trying to work on multiple things at once. And the other thing that I tend to do is, clean cars, clean out the car, but mostly the things I've been obsessing about are, that kind of thing. But yeah, Sims 4, I'm learning things like your Sims can now get sick.
That's some great escapism right there.
Right? your Sims can now get sick, but the thing is that unlike real life, when your Sim gets sick, you can either brew tea, and usually heal yourself from those things, or just order medicine.
Oh.
Yeah,
Intriguing.
just like
And
yeah.
that's where the verisimilitude breaks down.
You don't have to go
that's where it all
bankrupt.
breaks down. You don't have to go bankrupt.
to
As a
wait
matter
for
of
a
fact,
month and then be surprised by the fact that you no longer have any money of your own.
right? You no longer have a job. Well, and the funny thing about Sims is that in The Sims, you can actually make a living as a writer from home.
I was
did
gonna
one.
say
That would be the most meta thing ever for you to have a writer sim.
I played a
I
lot
have
of
two.
Yes.
and almost invariably I will end up having like I always start a family, and the husband becomes a painter
Mhm.
and the wife becomes a novelist, and neither ever actually leaves their home ever.
Right?
Uh,
Well, yeah, and that's a possibility. I mean, with this one, usually I have a character who in the family who ends up becoming becomes a novelist, and I have a character, and I've been basically trying out as many professions as I can find.
mhm.
So that's made it pretty interesting.
Usually, I will have the family's daughter live with them in their ridiculously large house for a novelist and a painter.
Right.
And she will frequently be the person who goes down every single career track. Like she will start off, she will get a job as a fry cook, become a chef, and be like, okay, that was fun. I'm going to retire and I'm going to pursue medicine now.
Right.
And she
See,
starts off as like an ER night shift nurse and works her way up to chief of the board of the hospital, and then retires again. Also, I typically find a way to make all of my Sims immortal.
well, yeah, you can just turn off aging in this one.
You can't technically do that in Sims 3, but there are items that you can buy that reverse the aging process by a few days, and you can
Snake oil.
except they work.
Right.
Well, and okay, so I ended up getting the bad luck or good luck trifecta, depending upon your approach to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So in my most recent one, I had my character was in the astronaut profession. One of the things you have to do is up your logic skill, which means one of the things you can get is the telescope. Now, in Sims 4, the telescope and the microscope are not these little bitty things you put in your backyard or on a table. The microscope and the telescope are big, fuck off, small buildings almost. And but if you use the telescope between 10 p.m. and midnight,
you can get
there is
abducted by aliens.
You can get abducted by aliens, which I did. You can get pregnant, which I did, and you can have twins, which I did. All three
in
have
that order?
in that order.
So what was it? Your male sim got abducted and had twin alien babies.
Correct.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So
It's not a
and
Tuma.
it's just it's not a Tuma. So yeah, that was kind of weird. The only upside to that is that if they are alien babies, you can send them back to their homeworld without remorse.
Oh.
So,
They'll charge you for support.
nope.
The other thing that I
They don't charge you
frequently
for
will
support.
do in The Sims 3 is I will get the daughter of the family to fall in love with someone, to get a spouse, and then I will find a way to murder said spouse. Because one thing that everyone does in every Sims game is kill the Sims indiscriminately.
Carol fucking Baskin.
Most I have not watched Tiger King. I am happy to still be able to say.
Right?
It's the
most
most glorious train wreck, dude. You got to check it out.
most common way the most common way that everyone knows to kill your Sims is to build a swimming pool,
And then take
get
out
your
the ladders
Sim in the swimming pool, and then take out the ladders. The Sim doesn't know
and
how
let
to
them
climb
drown.
up a small ledge, so they stay in the pool until they drown.
It's so silly. That's like Grand Theft Auto 3 when you couldn't swim, and it's like, oh no, you touch water, you are instantly dead.
Yep.
Like, meanwhile, you can get in
You're
car
dead.
accidents and get shot a few times in the chest, and you're fine.
Yeah, just a flesh wound.
Ethan, how have you been entertaining yourself?
Well, have I been entertaining myself? I've been playing
The fact
a
that you
lot
are a
of.
lucky bastard who doesn't even have to go to work.
Yeah, so we can actually prologue it with that I don't have to work. So I have more free time than I know what to do with, which is a good problem to have.
He works
Not
for a
gonna lie.
library that is currently closed.
Correct.
But he's
And
a
there's
Likewise,
nothing I
I
can
work
do from
for-
home because everything I do for my job has to do with physically processing books. So
Right. Likewise, I work for a company that if you cannot work from home and fit certain criteria, which I do, you can basically get paid for nothing. So I'm with you there, Ethan.
pretty nice. Yeah. So anyway, I've been playing a lot of computer games. I've been watching some shows, a lot of I guess a lot of Bob's Burgers, which is a great show. Really, really funny. And I really like it, especially because like most of the relationships on it are like really positive. Like it's a family that like they're really it's interesting that they get a lot of comedy from really like positive depictions of the people being good people to each other rather
Bob
than
and Linda
being jerks.
are almost as much relationship goals as Gomez and Morticia Adams.
They're pretty great.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a great show.
And also when we can, been watching Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars, with Liv.
the last season.
We got
Season number
to
five?
yes, and we're in season 4 now, and like the writing and especially the animation have just gotten incredibly good.
So are you watching it for the first time, or are you
Same
rewatching
first time because
Okay.
I mean the final season's just coming out, and we're kind of hoping we'd be able to get to it, while people were still talking about it and everything. But it's kind of been slow going. We can't watch it because we want to watch it together, so we don't like watch it when the other person isn't around.
You don't want to stream cheat on one another. That's
Right.
Right. Yeah. Talk about your relationship goals.
So we so it's a little slow going sometimes, but we got some fun episodes we've been watching. That
By the way, I just want to throw out there that's such a funny touchstone for the time we live in, is that like one of the romantic things that we do as couples is like like have the self-discipline to not watch the next episode of that show that we're supposed to watch together.
Yeah,
like that's a
it's true.
romantic
Right.
gesture in
Yeah,
today's
it's
day
true.
and age.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing and very, 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 very real. So we've been doing that. Playing a lot of video games. It's been great stuff. Tons of Magic the Gathering Arena. The new set just came out. Lots of fun.
Oh, by the way, just speaking of speaking of a side effect of the pandemic, can you imagine like all of the Magic players that like to physically play, and now they're all going to be buying the games? Like that must be a friggin' bumper crop for them on those digital versions.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's literally got the Gathering in the title, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And Arena is a pretty good setup if you only care about what's in standard.
Yeah, I play a lot of Historic, which is all of the cards in Arena, so it's a little bit
standard, but
bigger of a card pool than Standard, and lots of fun.
Yeah, but at the same time, Historic only goes back to what you call it.
The first set is Ixalan.
Yeah, Ixalan.
But they're rolling out more. Like they're continuously rolling out more older cards they're doing it every few months, so it stays fresh.
Heck, I'm actually playing Magic the Gathering Arena right now.
Oh, are you? So am I. Okay, I'll confess. I have this Winata deck that is fun when it goes off, but doesn't always go off. Just like right now, I lose. Okay, I'll focus up. But Also, I got a couple new games on the Switch.
Yeah.
I got.
You're also one of the
yesterday-
lucky few people who has a Switch.
Really?
Like,
I mean, a lot of people have
so the the Nintendo Switch is a super hot commodity right now.
Oh, I believe it.
Because ain't nobody can leave the house.
Yep.
And Animal Crossing came out.
Yeah, Animal Crossing. I've not been
Well,
playing.
that is kind of funny though, right, Neil?
Okay.
Because one of the big selling points of it is that you can be on the go. You can
That's
you
right.
can leave the house.
You can go.
play the
You
thing.
can play it in the bathroom or the living
Yeah.
room or
There
the
are all these
kitchen.
examples of like flying around and staying in hotels and shit.
That's
It's like,
right.
nope, none of that applies right now.
No.
Yeah.
But I got a tactics game called Octoon Cthulhu Tactics, which is based on a role playing game that I played. That's pretty fun. It's like Cthulhu World War II thing. Cool. I got a little game called Ironcast, which is like a match 3 game, but like when you match 3, you get like points that go into your like steampunk Victoriana mech that you use to fight other mechs, and then you shoot your weapons, raise your shields, and charge your steam.
That sounds like a
engine and stuff.
Dagwood sandwich of nerd stuff. That's
It's
amazing.
really good. It's kind of like a glorified Flash game. I got it on sale on the Switch store for like $4. And it's extreme. Like the campaign is extremely short. That was the only thing that was disappointing about it. There's a little campaign mode, which is like the only mode for the game, and it's really short. And I actually beat it in like 2 days. It's kind of a roguelike thing. So like if you lose, you start over, but you get to keep some of your like level up upgrades.
I'll tell you what else
I won
you
like the
should,
third time I played it. So
you should buy for your Switch, Ethan.
what?
You need to buy Fight Crab.
Fight Crab.
Fight Crab. That's the name of the game.
Okay.
And it's available for Switch, and you play as a giant crab battling other giant crabs for supremacy, I suppose.
Wait a
I
minute,
will
is there a PS3
see if it's on
version?
sale.
Or is there a PS3 version where you have to attack the massive crab on its weak point for massive damage?
I mean, sort of. I believe it's available. It should be. Oh no, I'm sorry. It launches in summer 2020. It isn't quite available yet.
Oh.
I remember seeing it. Here's the thing about Fight Crab. You're playing as a giant crab, sure, but you also get to equip yourself with various weapons. These weapons can be as mundane as swords to as interesting as ICBMs or trucks.
Yeah.
And they're simply things that you hold in your claws and you flail around. It's a game where one of the kind of sales points, kind of like Octodad, the Dadliest Catch, is how very ungainly the controls are.
Yeah, I think they call this Fumblecore.
Yeah.
That's a very weird subgenre. It's like, hey, we're bragging about how unwieldy our controls are.
Yeah.
You ever wanted to be a surgeon but have to have a button for each individual finger?
Yeah.
Surgeon Simulator, everybody.
Right?
So other games that I've actually been playing. Townsman, A Kingdom Rebuilt, which is a little town simulator. I'm like, I'm gonna play a little town simulator game. I like those things. And I got it on sale for like $4. And it's really fun. You have a little medieval town, your little villagers go around and they pick up supplies from their little supply stores and they take them to their little shops and they sell them to each other. It's fun. But the big one is Mario Maker 2, which Neil got me for Christmas and just had an update. You got me this for Christmas.
Yes, I did. And I said Happy Christmas.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were not remembering. Yeah, which just had an update today where you can now make worlds like Super Mario World. Like, so you can make sets of levels that fit together into a world. You go around into them. And boy, howdy, there are some good ones that have already been made. So it's pretty awesome. I don't know if they like gave this to people who I don't know, maybe some places besides America got this update earlier, or whether it's just like they gave it to some people who are professional level designers beforehand, or what. But there's like several of them that are already been made, and even though the thing just dropped today, and the ones I played so far are real good. So awesome Mario stuff.
Surprised you went Boy Howdy instead of Mamma Mia. I mean, it was right there.
Mamma mia. So yeah, there's one I'm playing right now that's it has like, so it's set up so there's levels you don't have to play in order to, to complete the world. There's kind of like they're off to the side or whatever.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some ridiculously difficult ones. But not in the sort of like way that, like, if you played any Mario Maker or watched like videos of Mario Maker, they're like
Not
insane difficulty level
not in
ones,
the
like
hardcore like Kaizo level.
yeah, you got your like pixel perfect speedrunner jump stuff. And that's not what this is. It's just really, really well designed. Like you can tell what you're supposed to do, and it's just a really hard challenge.
Mhm.
And I've been playing a lot of that and feeling alternately frustrated and really good when I beat them.
Alternately frustrated and super badass.
Yep.
It's like Dark Souls syndrome there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. Highly recommend Mario Maker 2. It's apparently the last major update they're going to do for it. So it's kind of complete at this point. And there is just an infinite supply of awesome platforming to be had.
Yeah, the Switch, unfortunately, if you don't have a Nintendo Switch, now is not the time to buy one. Because here's the thing. Everybody and their cat is trying to buy Nintendo Switches right now.
Yeah.
And as a result, enterprising people have created shopping bots to buy Switches as soon as they are available.
Yep.
So that they can then turn
And sell them.
around and
Yep.
sell them and scalp them for $500 or $600 on eBay.
Yeah, that was how it was earlier when the Switch like came out early. There was like not quite enough supply to meet the demand. So
Yeah,
I guess,
well, right now they can't. There were supply issues because, well,
yeah, for some reason.
pandemic and factories were shut down.
I was thinking about Switch.
People were. Mhm.
Well, I was going to say, the other half of, I mean, of course, the whole mobile aspect of it isn't as big of a selling point, but I thought about it, I'm like, well, okay, but it's like a family friendly Nintendo brand thing. So you have like families, you got people like trying to entertain kids or do quality time or whatever, and everyone's stuck at home. It makes perfect sense that, that would be the go-to console or whatever.
Also, people seem to really love Animal Crossing, which just came out. I personally do not see the appeal of that game whatsoever. And this is from someone who's sunk probably a good year of his life in game into Minecraft.
I mean, I don't know. Isn't a lot of it kind of like like combination of Minecraft and Sims type thing?
And for that matter, it's a lot like The Sims too. But I like Animal Crossing for some reason. I've played a couple of the older games, and they just never caught my fancy.
Yeah, no what to say.
Sometimes stuff just doesn't click. That's how I feel about the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I just can't get into it. I stopped trying.
I didn't really like them until Metal Gear Solid 5. And I really
Well,
liked
it was like me with the game that you gave us. I mean, it's a good game
with
in a lot
Undertale.
of. Yeah, with Undertale, I mean, it was a good game. Had a lot going for it, but it just, for whatever reason, did not click with me.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I liken it to like a genre of music that you're not necessarily a big fan of. Like you can see a quality example of it and be like, yes, I'm sure that is a very good thing for people to enjoy that kind of thing. But that kind of thing just isn't really my bag.
Do it for me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's a genre. People who are just not. You're not its fan.
So, gaming-wise, I've been playing The Witcher 3, which I have mentioned incessantly the last few episodes. I'm not going to mention again, but I thought I might mention the the semi-ironic game that I've gotten back into a bit, as well as its pseudo sequel, which just came out recently. I've been playing a lot of Plague Inc. Evolved.
Plague Inc. That's ironic.
Plague Inc. is a game where you create a disease and you attempt to infect and kill the world.
Oh, it's the opposite. Okay. I was thinking it was like
No,
well, I mean, I have a tabletop game that's literally called Pandemic.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Pandemic. Pandemic, you're trying to stop it. No,
See.
Plague Inc., you are playing as the virus.
Well, that's what's so weird is that like I saw like on Steam they had like a thing where they're doing like a sale and they're doing all this like they're doing stuff and it's like it's so weird. It's like, oh hey, we're gonna try to like we're gonna donate this to help. And there's gonna be a sale in the game, and the premise of the game is you're trying to wipe everyone out with the virus.
Yeah,
Virus, right?
and that same company recently released a game that has very similar gameplay but a different sort of concept called Rebel Inc. Escalation, where you are playing as a newly appointed military governor to a war-torn region, attempting to stabilize it and defeat the growing guerrilla insurgent.
Are you trying to stabilize it or
No,
pacify
you're
it?
trying to stabilize the region. That's the thing. Like, your whole thing is, okay, well, all right, I got to get some soldiers to fight the insurgents, but I also I need to bring I need to bring like sewers. I need to, okay, we're going to develop sewers for this area. So so that the people will like me because now they can poop.
Right. Inside.
Yes.
I was gonna say they could poop for us.
But yeah,
And they can poop inside without getting dysentery.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting game. So Plague Inc. and its sister game Rebel Inc., which is a different game. Like, it plays very similarly, even though like the premise is different. And then aside from that, I'm just about done with the main story missions for the base game of The Witcher 3, at which point then I will go on to the 2 expansion packs.
Well, I've been playing Skyrim a little bit too, because can't get out to play D&D in person.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, the other thing I've been watching a lot. I've also been because The Witcher is on my PlayStation, and because I have a Chromebook in my living room, I frequently will be playing a game while streaming something on the Chromebook. And there have been 2 other things that I've been. Yes, I am that person that everyone complains about with their, why can't you just do one thing? Because I mean, I could, but why not do more than one thing?
Well, I laugh because I'm often that same guy, but for different reasons.
I remember once I frustrated my sister because I was simultaneously playing a game, watching an episode of Doctor Who, and carrying a conversation with her at the same time. And managing to keep track of all three things pretty well. Like, I wasn't losing I wasn't dropping the thread anywhere. And she was frustrated because she just doesn't really she can't do that very well. So,
well, I will often be playing a game and looking for, where is this town?
Yeah. Main reason I typically have my Chromebook open is so that I can make sure that I'm not missing something in The Witcher 3. Like, I want to make sure that I get the good ending and things along those lines. But because this game is one of those things where you can do something like, hats off to CD Projekt Red. One of the reasons I'm really looking forward to Cyberpunk if it ever comes out, is like in The Witcher 3, I did something in the first, I think, hour or two of gameplay that had repercussions like 8 hours down the line
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't realize were going to have repercussions. But they did, and it was real. It was like it's really interesting because it's one of those things where you could do something and not even think about it for a second, and have it come back to either help or haunt you at later. And in this particular case, the choice that I made was making a decision of the lesser of two evils. And like it was a very morally gray situation, so it wasn't like there was an obvious right choice to the
And that's kind of the whole
question.
that's the whole shtick with the Witcher franchise, more or less.
Mhm.
There are a few things where there's one choice where it's obvious, yes, do this and you're the good guy, do this and you're the bad guy. But a lot of the questions are like, so do you slaughter this entire town or do you burn down this orphanage?
Mm.
Well, that's bleak.
Well, I
It's
mean, you don't
gritty.
actually. It's more like okay, do you? It's more like okay, sorry. The actual example here is okay. So, do you free the evil spirit trapped in the tree, and in so doing, release it to um to run rampant and destroy this town, or do you assist the town in collecting child sacrifices for the spirit to keep it appeased?
Ah,
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's pretty messed up, but that makes a little more sense.
Yes. And the answer you really want to give is I don't really want to do either of those
I'm
things.
gonna leave and just don't come back.
The problem is in this particular case it was a storyline mission, so you had to pick
That's
one.
how they get you.
Mm.
Do I help the crones and they'll eat the children, or do I let and the crones will destroy the city, destroy this entire village for its impertinence?
Well, I like what you said there about like the choice being subtle, where it's just a thing you don't even give much thought to, and then like
Yeah.
later on you'll see these repercussions because like a lot of that stuff, it kind of ruins the illusion and the immersion and the
Yeah.
significance of it when it's like, an old school like Knights of the Old Republic style, like, hey, obvious fork in the road, big decision time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
now
Do
obviously
you do
the
the light
thing
side thing
that,
or do you do the dark side
yeah,
thing?
that very morally gray situation isn't as subtle as the things that have come back to haunt me, but like dealing with the storylines for the Bloody Baron was just was real hard because there were you didn't realize that things you were doing at the beginning of the game were going to matter.
Right. So let me ask this, Neil.
Yeah.
To you, which was the lesser of two evils?
In this particular case, I let the spirit run free and save the children.
Fair enough. They are our
Because
future.
because the village was actively sacrificing children.
Yeah,
So like
you're willing to.
I was
guys.
really kind of willing to just say, okay, all you motherfuckers got to die now because you're sacrificing children to keep
Right. Yeah. Y'all people need Jesus.
Well, in a way too, it's like there's like the culpability factor, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like humans, which can be good or evil or a mix, and then the evil spirit's gonna evil. Like that's just
Yeah.
the nature of the
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So
And
like one
my
could
whole
say that that's
standpoint was
worse.
yeah,
'cause
my whole
the,
standpoint was also the children are innocent.
Mm-hmm.
right.
So I am creating Geralt of Rivia to be the defender of the innocent and the downtrodden. Because I
Right.
can, because he's my Geralt of Rivia. Also, he's marrying Triss Marigold and not Yennefer because Yennefer's a bitch. I really don't like Yennefer at all. Like she's such a selfish person.
So, okay. So in Geek News that I just found out, anybody here a fan of Leverage?
Yes, I saw that too. They're going to be rebooting it. Well, not rebooting it, but like sort of continuing it.
Right.
Almost
Noah
the
Wiley
entire main
taking
staff.
on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
almost the entire main cast is going to be returning, except for the guy who played Nate because sexual assault allegations.
Yeah, so maybe we want to change that out.
Yeah, so he's out. Everyone else appears to be back in as perhaps not main cast, but reoccurring cast.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Which is
Parker,
cool.
Sophie, Elliot, and Hardison.
I don't know why they'd bring Sophie back because, like, spoiler alert for the end of Leverage, Nate and Sophie get married and retire and leave Parker, Hardison, and Elliot to run the crew. So you could, especially since you're not going to bring Nate back because he might be a sexual predator.
Right.
At least until such allegations are resolved, because they are. It is important to note they are allegations.
Yeah, it's an important distinction to make. I mean, I remember there's that Chris Hardwick stuff that was like flying around, and then turned out like there was no merit to any of that.
Or like Johnny Depp,
right,
who it turns out like probably was in fact not beating Amber Heard and
was the
she
abused
quite the
rather
other
than
way
was in
around.
fact the abused person
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he actually has a case that hasn't been thrown out against her at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, so it's important to note these are allegations, but like, especially if you're not going to try and bring Nate back, don't bring Sophie back either, because they can just be off being happily married.
Nah, they'll
Their
bring her
story
back
was-
because they
their
want,
story
because
arc was
she has
complete.
fans.
Yes, I know.
Right. That and that you could always just kill Nate off.
It's true. Like, or something. Man, I'm sorry I heard what happened to Nate, and not even elaborate.
Yep.
Which is, I'm sure, what's going to happen. But yeah, I saw that too. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. Which, hey, I'm glad I have Amazon Prime.
Yay! Yep.
But I'm sorry. Getting back to, I've been streaming stuff while playing The Witcher 3. I've been rewatching Community recently, which now is a really great time if you want to get into Community, because it's on Hulu and Netflix. And it was a really great show. And I'm only about 5 episodes in, but I've really been enjoying Preacher, the AMC adaptation of the comic book of the same name.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of it's been really good and really well written. So, and I don't know why I had so many negative connotations in my head for Preacher. I very obviously had it confused with a different graphic novel / comic book called Priest, which was pretty bad. When I went into trying to remember, what am I confusing this with? Because this is nothing like the comic that I remember.
Not to be confused with deacon or reverend, right?
Yes, it was because this was Preacher, and I was thinking of Priest.
Right. And Priest, are you thinking of the movie that had Carl Urban in it?
I think that was an adaptation of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that one had so much potential.
Speaking of
Maybe. I'm
adaptations
checking
of a
right
comic starring Carl Urban, Dredd was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Dredd was awesome.
It was very cathartic after the shit show that was Judge Dredd with Stallone in the 90s.
Yes,
God,
I was.
yes, where-
Carl Urban, the Carl Urban Priest was an adaptation of Priest, the manhwa Korean comic of the same name that I read a bit of in high school and was not impressed by.
Right. But yeah, and that one just okay. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay, I'm just like, because man, that one either effectively just killed the buzz or I dropped out. So,
As
yeah,
far as
yeah.
rewatches go, I've been kind of watching, kind of not watching that 70s show. It's mainly been my wife watching it, but sometimes if it's on, I'm watching it. And it's it's a pretty consistently good show. There's some kind of like weak episodes towards the end, but that's certainly nothing unique. And it is kind of a weird time capsule to like go back and see like certain actors, at that like at that time when they're younger, when they weren't as famous, and some of the guest spots, and some of it. I mean, sadly, it's dead people because it's like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you had like Isaac Hayes showed up at one point, and Don Knotts showed up at one point.
Also, it's interesting to
Which is
see
funny
Ashton
because-
Kutcher without a beard.
I haven't
What
seen
now?
him with a beard, so seeing Ashton Kutcher without a beard.
Oh, Ashton Kutcher.
Yes.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
he
Out
mostly
of beard.
didn't have a beard for most of his career, though.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
but
the
but anytime he
things.
shows up right now on ye olde like media, he's in full. I've got a beard, and I'm pretty much dedicating all of my life to fighting sex trafficking at this point. Like that's his deal at this point. He doesn't really act anymore. He's
Yes,
also
I heard.
like
Look at me, I'm an adult.
investor.
I guess.
So he doesn't really need to either.
Right.
We are running a little low on time. This was a fun episode.
Mhm.
I enjoy coming back to just what have people been doing, and it's a good well to come back to, because it's not something where like the answer changes from episode to episode.
Right.
Right.
I referenced it earlier, but I did indeed binge Tiger King over the course of a couple days.
Tiger King.
And they added there's an after show thing, which for a little community tie-in here, was hosted by Joel McHale, who is like fascinated by the show and took it upon himself to suggest to Netflix that he do a after show thing, and he actually like remote interviewed a few of the people that were
Oh, wow.
on the show. And of course it's called The Tiger King and I, which is an amazing title.
That's pretty good.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I take pride in the fact that I have still not watched any of Tiger King, and likely never will.
Yeah,
I
to
will,
me,
Someday.
I will
Tiger
see
King
that
is.
and raise you a never seen Titanic.
I've never seen
Uh,
Titanic
I
either,
will-
so
I have seen Titanic, but I was married at the time. So I will see you never having seen Tiger King, have seen Titanic, but I will counter with never watched Jersey Shore.
I mean, I don't know. Like, that's a fairly common thing, I feel like.
Yeah, but it's my one. It's one of my.
I mean, don't
part
get
of
me
my
wrong,
guilty
it's
pleasure.
definitely something to be proud of. It's just not as rare of a
Right.
thing.
Oh, okay. So another thing I've been watching recently. You can purchase seasons of Red Dwarf on Amazon Prime. So I am currently watching some of Red Dwarf on occasion.
Nice.
But that was a pretty
Because
short-lived show, wasn't it? Wasn't it just like a couple of seasons?
No, they just did a season and did a special that was all the rage. I mean, it started in 91, 92, and it's like Doctor Who, it's been around on and off since then.
Oh, okay. That must have been one of those things where it had been in an off period, and when I was aware of
Mhm.
it, and I just thought it was like a few seasons or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's got several seasons, and they just recently redid. They just recently did a new season and a new special.
of course I recommend using this time, if you haven't, if you want something to watch. Babylon 5 is on Amazon Prime,
Oh, is it?
Ooh,
Nice.
that's a good choice.
Sweet.
I may
and
have to do that.
is free. Like, you don't have to buy it.
Mhm. Right?
I will have to check that out. That is definitely on my radar.
Oh yeah, Babylon 5, one of the most quotable series, up there with Firefly. Only it has
Well, see,
5
that's
seasons.
less intimidating for me than like all this Star Trek that I haven't seen, because Star Trek is like, it's like, okay, there's all these series and there's all these things, and where do you start? And there's
And
so
like
much of it, it's just
even
Babylon
the
5
good
was
ones have like really bad.
And then it's just
Right.
like,
that you
was
can
it,
like skip if you know that they're coming because they don't
was
have
it like
any.
a few seasons? Like, wasn't it relatively?
Right.
Yeah,
short
there's only
run?
5 seasons
Yeah.
of Avalon 5.
And
Yeah,
it was designed that way. It was designed
Yeah.
that way.
it
Right.
was plotted out for a 5-season run. It had a 5-year
5-year
mission,
mission.
if you will. We both got there.
Right. Let me put it this way: if you like Babylon 5, I think you will like Deep Space Nine. If you
Yeah,
must pick a single Star Trek series, Deep Space
yeah,
Nine is a good choice. It's not the only choice, but it is a good
yeah.
choice.
DS9's my typical desire. Like if I'm gonna if I was to point to a single single Star Trek series to watch, I'd probably pick DS9 or Voyager.
Yeah, DS9 for me is simply more quotable. I think one of my favorite quotes is Quark and Garrick, talking about root beer and how it's like the Federation.
Nice.
So yeah.
I highly recommend looking up looking up the YouTube video of all of the Ferengi rules of acquisition.
Oh God, yes.
They have a very like despite the fact that they're kind of bloodthirstily profit for the sake of profit, like the rules of acquisition are actually pretty intelligent and reasonable business ways to go about operating a business cannily.
So it sounds like they're lawful evil then.
They
Yeah,
are. They are
they are
lawful
lawful neutral, really. Like,
actually Ferengi are lawful greedy.
yeah.
Yeah, that's lawful neutral then.
Yeah, because
One of the rules of acquisition is peace is good for business. The one right before that is war is good for business. It's easy to get the two confused because they're literally the two adjacent rules of acquisition.
right.
My other favorite rule of acquisition is from time to time declare peace just to mix things up.
Right.
We are running low on time. Does anybody have any final thoughts or opinions or things they wish to share?
If you have a front porch,
okay.
get out on it. It's awesome right now.
Yeah, vitamin D is good. Also, hey, in the comments, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. But in the comments on our page, put in your makes this interactive. Put in your thing you've been binging on, thing you would recommend to other people.
Great idea. Way to drive the community, Ben. We'll put that. We have this on. There are comments on our website, on our Facebook page, and on our YouTube channel. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can get a YouTube link that isn't a letter salad. You have to have at least 100 subscribers.
So you
to
can
be
become
able
a real
to,
boy.
I didn't know you had a YouTube
Right.
channel. I'll subscribe.
Yeah, have to have
Right.
at least 100 subscribers to be able to have a youtube.com/your name. Until you have at least 100 subscribers, your YouTube channel is youtube.com/uuax2 capital R,
Alphabet soup.
etc.
Yeah,
Is there a
alphabet
niner
soup.
there? Calling from a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Neil is fantasizing about being a Marine.
Yes.
Most Marines are the ones who use Niner in outside of radio.
I didn't use Niner. I said capital R.
I
know.
subscribe.
I dropped the niner reference.
Okay. I mean, I do use Niner from time to time because I learned the phonetic alphabet for work, but
Right? And 5 and 9 are very similar.
yeah, and that's why you put an ER at the end of 9, because that way it's differentiable from 5.
Right?
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, that
Which is
reminds
funny.
me. The 5 and 9er thing reminds me. Watched Alien. Such a good movie.
What now?
You break up a bit
Aliens.
there. Oh yeah.
Oh, Aliens.
It's
Yeah.
so
Speaking
good.
of quotable movies, my God.
Yeah, it's the best.
Hey, game
It's
over,
been a long
man.
time. I'm like, man, this movie really is as good as I remember it being.
It
It's like
ages well. It does.
it's a very different movie than Alien, but it's very awesome in its own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On our Discord page, by the way, we have a Discord if anyone wants to join it. I just put the complete Ferengi rules of acquisition. It's an 8-minute long YouTube video because while there are, I think, 119 rules of acquisition, not all of them were said out loud.
Right.
Well, everybody, we look forward to talking to you again in 2 weeks. This has been Neil
The one true Ben.
Mike?
and
Ethan.
most of us, at least, will talk to you next time on Geek Fanthology. We can't guarantee that Ethan will be another reoccurring guest star. I mean, he's around when we're recording remotely.
Yep.
And he isn't playing D&D, but
That's true.
theoretically, eventually we'll go back to recording in person sometime, although I don't think immediately when the quarantine lifts would be particularly wise for any of us yet. But
Right. So.
anyhow, we'll talk to you next time on Geek Fanthology. Yeah, leave what you've been binging on in one of our many comment sections. We'd appreciate hearing from you. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is a production of Working Theory Productions. It was brought to you by the letter U and the number 110. Opening theme is Ultra Mega Hyperstorm, and ending theme is March of the Mind, both by Kevin MacLeod. If you enjoyed this podcast or know someone who would, please consider sharing it on your social media, sending us an email, commenting, liking, subscribing on our YouTube channel, following us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, what have you. Pretty much anything that would help to build the algorithm. If you really enjoyed this podcast, please consider supporting us, either by making a one-time donation on our website or a reoccurring one on Patreon at patreon.com/workingtheory. A final thought. One upside to this whole pandemic thing, we're playing a lot more video games and watching a lot more TV. Should give us more to talk about, right? Right?